what you've done in your life. I mean, you have a long list of accolades from books, you mentioned podcasts, TV shows, marriages, divorces. I mean, you've lived a lot of lives, Heidi. And one thing that a lot of people know you from is from social media.
Yeah.
And when you build your life on social media, it's all about you.
Yeah.
And how has that been? How has that gone? Heidi Powell. Maybe you know her from TV, from her books, her viral workouts and nutrition videos all over social media, or maybe from her relationships, dealing with heartbreak and tragedy in the public eye. She's born and raised right here in Arizona, raised in her family here too. And today on MOMCAST, we sit down with the mom and mogul on how her trials, her successes, even her slip-ups have led her to this new perspective on power and purpose. Heidi, we have been talking about doing this interview for months now, and I'm so excited. But here's what's so funny about you is that I feel like it's kind of tricky to define Heidi Powell. So when people ask you like, oh, what do you do? Where do you start?
I thought you were going to say it's tricky to define like how to nail me down, because that is true.
Well,
too.
that's true. Yeah, exactly.
Gosh, how do you define Heidi Powell?
Yeah.
I think this is kind of a thing that I've thought a lot about over the last few years, because I think so many people define me by what they see me having accomplished on the outside, the TV show, the books, the podcast, whatever it is. And I've had to work really hard to almost extricate myself from that and remind myself that none of that actually matters. And I'm myself. I am who I am. I'm a child of God. I am a mother of 4 kids. I am a daughter. I'm a friend. I am anything and everything I want to be. I know that sounds so woo-woo and interesting, but I've gone through a lot over the past over the past decade, over the past life.
Yes.
I mean, it's like it just keeps going. And one of the things I've realized, there was this great quote that says, they say the universe, but I think you could replace it with God. The universe will continue to remove things from your life that you place your value in until you realize it's not there. And it was at a time where I felt like everything was being removed from my life. I had a marriage being removed. I had businesses being removed. I had control being removed. I had my best friend and boyfriend dying and being removed. And it was like all of these things that I felt I was, or I needed to be in the world's eyes to be enough, successful, or whatever. Literally, it was like one by one they continued to remove themselves, or God removed them from my life to remind me that that's not who I am. And if I think or continue to say that I am that, I'll never find peace. So who am I? I'm me. And the last few years, as I've after Dave passed, which it's a whole topic in and of itself, I have placed a lot less value in business and in work, and even in being who I think the world needs me to be. And I've placed all of my value in my home with my kids and what they need. But yeah, then it's like, okay, what would somebody see me as? There's fitness, there's nutrition, there's exercise, there's supplements. It's just kind of like, it's a lot. It's very multifaceted.
Yeah, but it seems like you've now placed your worth kind of in a different bucket than maybe you did in the past, especially when you look at what you've done in your life. I mean, you have a long list of accolades from books, you mentioned podcasts, TV shows, marriages, divorces. I mean, you've lived a lot of lives, Heidi. And one thing that that a lot of people know you from is from social media.
Yeah.
And when you build your life on social media, it's all about you.
Yeah.
And how has that been? How has that gone?
Having a life built on social media, all about me.
Yes.
Well, I think what's interesting is I never intended to build a brand ever. Like this was all something that kind of happened because I was really my ex-husband, who I did the TV show with.
Yes.
I was his behind the scenes manager and really fixer and biggest supporter and cheerleader and champion. Anything he wanted, I wanted to make happen. He was the dreamer, I was the doer. And it was literally like anywhere he needed support. It was my worth at that time in my life, which thankfully, because it led me here. And also I can recognize now that my worth was in being what anyone needed at any cost or expense to myself, right? And so me jumping in and helping with whether it was his online program, or we created the show together, and me jumping in and helping behind the scenes led to a brand on TV, which then was like, Heidi, you've never had Instagram or social media, so start that. So really, social media only came as the result of me being on TV, being super uncomfortable on TV, not knowing, it's not my innate genius. I've had to learn to be comfortable on camera. But like, if I was doing a shoulder press before on camera with no words, I was like freezing up. I was completely not a natural. So this whole life kind of created because I had to have the supporting social media to go with what it was that I was doing. And so honestly, I'm grateful for that, because I don't think I ever felt like I had to be who I wasn't on social media, because I never really understood how many people were watching, or like you see a number like 100K, 200K, 300K, whatever it is, you see a number and it doesn't really
register.
No.
Yeah.
No. And so I think there has, and I've never really watched a lot of other accounts. It's really like I just did it, and I probably, yes, not even probably, I was an oversharer for a very long time. Anyone who's watched me for years would know. And it's just because I almost viewed it as a diary for my family for many years.
But your family went through, I mean, Heidi, you've gone through horrible stuff. You lost your dad. You've had 2 divorces.
MOMCAST is sponsored by Moxie Pest Control, protecting what matters most.
I mean, Heidi, you've gone through horrible stuff. You lost your dad. You've had 2 divorces. You had, Dave Hollis, who you were dating, pass away.
Yeah.
All these really heavy things that have happened. And you've shown up on social media and you've talked about all of those really heavy things. How?
I don't know how I have. I think it's because I haven't really understood or grasped or registered what is behind that number, like I said. But also, I'll say this, because I've done a lot of therapy and a lot of coaching and a lot of just, I mean, a lot of healing. And in my healing, what I've realized is, as a child, I was not expressive at all. I was very quiet. I was a quieter girl in elementary school, junior high, high school. I didn't feel safe, maybe, expressing how I felt. I was not a crier. I couldn't cry. I was raised with 3 brothers, and it was like in that generation, it was like you're raised to keep it all in. I didn't know who I was I had zero concept of who I was. I was anorexic and bulimic in high school, and then for about a decade after. Which turned into a food addiction. So all of that, now I'm learning, all of that is the result of not expressing, and trauma. We all have trauma, so I'm not putting it on anyone, but having trauma in one way or another, whether it's sexual or some kind of abuse by anyone, right? So being that, and being so shelled off and not knowing that I can share, or never really sharing and feeling scared to share, over the years of me having an eating disorder come out, a marriage fall apart, my first marriage fall apart, and different things in my life. And then eventually it was really when my dad passed in 2011, I think that was kind of my I don't like the floodgates kind of opened, the dam broke and the floodgates opened. And then it was like I was so scared to share anything because I felt like if people knew who I really was before that point, if they knew what I'd really done, like my eating disorder, if they saw who I really am inside and all of the yuckiness that is just truly just humanness, they're not going to love me. And I think we all are on a quest to be loved and accepted and enough. But then the interesting thing happened, that was when I shared, which actually I think the first time I shared anything like huge about me was on national television as the show was airing in season 2 or 3 about my eating disorder. Like that was shame. I never had told Chris about it. My last husband didn't know about it. I had not told a single soul because there was so much shame about my eating disorder. And so to be in a place where it was a part of an episode because one of our participants had an eating disorder, and so I had shared with her, it became this, I was like, oh my gosh, what's everyone gonna think? I saw that, like, you know, all the Brene Brown stuff, like vulnerability is courage. Like it takes courage to share. And once you share, you unknowingly give everyone around you the same courage. And so I saw that happen. And it just like this relief, like this weight on my shoulders that I'd been carrying for decades. I mean, high school, it was like everyone probably knew I was bulimic or anorexic. And it was just this like, it was this thing I kept locked away in a box and acted like it had never happened. I got veneers because my teeth were ruined, all of these things. And so to be able to speak it, I was no longer afraid of it, you know? Like one of the things I think about is when you're a kid and you're in bed at night and there's like this shadow against the wall and you're terrified of the shadow. It's only because you don't know what the shadow is coming from and you don't have the lights on to see it. So as soon as you can turn the light on, you can name the object that's creating that shadow. You're not scared of the shadow anymore. And it was like when I started to turn the lights on, which truly I only did because I felt pressure to. Thank goodness I was a people pleaser back then. Not so much now. Everything works out beautifully. In the past 5 years since my divorce with Chris, or I don't even know, is it 6? I feel like I've lived 5 lifetimes. Genuinely, I feel like I'm a completely different person every year because I'm learning lessons oftentimes the hard way, oftentimes from mistakes that I've made, and occasionally, I would say all of those I can connect to, okay, it's because of this traumatic moment as a child. So being able to see it all has me loving and appreciating who I am and how I am. And yeah, so I don't mind the public life, I guess. There are times I want to run away.
Sure.
Oh yeah.
Well,
and I don't want to post
and
anything
let's talk
on social.
about that because you think about your second divorce with Chris, which was a very public relationship
Yeah.
already. You guys are both, you had a TV show that was very successful.
Yeah.
And then there's that, so there's the pressure of that. And then you guys are showing up on social media, you're building brands, you're building businesses, you have 2 kids together, and your other 2 kids from a previous marriage, and then it falls apart. Yeah. But you're in the public eye, so you almost have to talk about it, right? How did you figure that out?
Yeah, so I think I'm realizing there's really nothing you actually figure out. You just do it.
Really?
And then you just, it's like if you do something and you say the whole time, I wish I would have done it this way, or you say, okay, I'm going this way, but maybe I should go over here. Like, it's just you choose. I go all in with everything, and so does Chris. So it actually, I don't want to say it was easy. He and I at the time had a successful app company. We had a successful supplement company, which, and obviously the brand, the show had been canceled by that point in time. I think he and I mean, without going too far into it, there were issues in our marriage, and I would say the majority of the issues truly were a result of me. I mean, I'll get emotional. They were the result of me not knowing who I was.
Well, that's what's interesting, though, is you think by that time in your life, you 4 kids deep, 2 marriages in, you grew up, you know.
Really, no.
And you're questioning yourself at that point in your life. Heidi, that's so scary.
Yeah, and that was the first time I'd really started looking at things that maybe Chris had seen or past people in my life had seen. And it's like, if you don't know what your trauma is, get into a relationship and you will find it, you know? And it was just not knowing. I don't think anyone really knows who they are until they halfway through their life find it.
MOMCAST is sponsored by Moxie Pest Control, protecting what matters most.
I would say over the course of the 10 years I was with Chris, I figured out who I was by the end. I mean, very much so. And I think Chris and I both knew, like halfway through, we're like, okay, this probably might not work. And also, he and I were really great friends. We were really great friends. He is, I mean it, he is I'll cry again because he's so great. He's a great person. And we don't have the same vision in life as I started to figure out who I was. And I think as he started to figure out, we both compromised so much on big things that like, we're just two totally different people.
But how did you even come to that conversation? Because sometimes it's easier just to be like, listen, especially when the world wants you guys to be together forever and to stick this out because they see you guys together. It's easy to push all of those feelings down and just tough it out. You got kids, you have a brand, you have a business. It's so, in my opinion, I feel like it would be so much easier just to ignore that. Ignore what you're feeling inside and the holes that you have.
Yeah, I think, I mean, this is such a delicate thing, but it's like I'm in a space of authenticity, so I'm like, let's talk about it. I think who I was, I've always been a really good person, and really kind, and also some of the ways that I was during certain parts in my marriage with Chris, which was not totally faithful, for a handful of months. And just being honest, I have never actually talked about it ever. That's a thing you can't recover from. And I feel like the reason I'm sharing it is, but I feel like if I didn't, the world, because he technically chose to leave, but we both knew, like 5 years later. Yeah. But I think the world might think it's him, and I don't want them to, And I think in the past, when the topic of marriage and divorce has come up, it's like really hurt me and him to see people say, "Oh, I can't believe your husband left you." So there was infidelity in the middle of our marriage. And it's very difficult. Once trust has been broken, it is like, it's a really hard thing to recover from. And now this is part of the trauma. It's like, that was the moment for me, now that I'm talking about it. That was the moment for me where I was like, what the actual hell? There was something in me that I didn't feel, it's not Chris, so I want to be very delicate.
Sure.
I didn't even know how to advocate for, I didn't even know what I needed. I had no idea. Yeah. I didn't know how to, and especially even not knowing, but even if I knew, I didn't know how to advocate for, I didn't know how to ask for, I didn't want to put people out, I didn't want to, and it created this thing where I was, I just became what I thought I needed to be. And then it's like when there's an avenue of, oh my gosh, someone sees me and I don't even have to ask them to see me, even if there's no, the emotional side of it's worse than anything, right? Because it's just suddenly, it's like I melt into and can be seen and appreciated by someone the way that I don't know how to ask my husband to see me, right? So that was a huge, and I mean, that was halfway through the marriage. And so us laying everything out, seeing that it was there, and when I told Chris, I didn't think he would stay, and he did. And he tried to make it work, and he tried really, really hard. We both did, and I would say for a couple of years it was great, better. And then, I think it was great because maybe potentially, I can't speak for him, he tried to push down how he really felt and how it really hurt him, and we were still doing the show at the time. I think when it all came out, it was the last season of the show. Yeah. And we would see a therapist every week or every other week. We'd literally fly to LA to go see a specific therapist every single week. Maybe it was every other. We really did try hard. And it just, the longer our marriage went, the more resentment maybe there was. Mm-hmm. And so it did get to a point where it was like, both of us, we would have very open conversations about it. And our therapist would, she would say, I'm not here to keep you together. I'm here to help you guys make the decision that's best for your family. Yeah. And it was it was very clear by, I think year 8, we're like, okay, we're going to give it 2 more years. We set a time. And if we can't feel better within 2 years, Chris, and he felt like he was becoming the worst version of himself. And I saw it. And I also knew that the worst version of himself was because I literally hurt him more than anyone. It's the worst thing you can do. You know, and even if I had my thoughts and my reasons, there's no excuse. There's just not. And also, I love and forgive that part of me because I see why in looking at who I was and how I was raised and what I endured in different ways. I get it. And so I forgive. And also, I think he needed freedom. And he needed a release. And I think I needed a release. So we decided in 2019 that it was over. And we actually didn't tell the world for a year. So we lived together for a full year.
What?
It was the most amazing thing. Like,
really?
Yeah. And I'm saying this from my perspective. You could talk to him and he could be like, it was absolute hell, right? But I feel like I had learned so much, so many learnings about who I was from 2015 to 2020. It was huge, 2015 to 2019, because I had to eat crow for what I'd done over and over and over and over. And I also had to figure out how to find peace and love myself and not be like, you don't deserve to live. Because there were so many times where I'm like, what a piece of crap I am. Like, why would I, what is wrong with me? All this negative self-talk that would go through my mind because of what I'd done. And I only knew myself as this lily white, super kind, super nice, raised in a great family in Mesa, Arizona. And here I am, in religious terms, like I committed the worst sin you could, it's like I didn't even know. And I didn't think anyone else in the world had done it. I thought this was just me. Yes. And I felt like I had a scarlet letter forever. So here it is. But I would find, like, even when I'll finish this thought, but even when I met Dave after the divorce, the first thing, as soon as I would meet a friend, anyone, where I could tell immediately there could potentially be depth, there was so much shame for what I'd done 6 years prior that I would say, hold on, I need you to know who I am. Here's what I did.
Heidi.
Yeah, and for a very long time, and Dave was the one, he helped me heal that with therapists, but like he would say at some point, a couple years in, he'd be like, stop bringing it up. Yeah. That is not who you are. That is what you did. Like, Heidi, that was the first thing you told me when we met, because there's a part I never wanted to feel like somebody loved me because they didn't know all of me. So there's so much freedom in being able to say, here's who I am. Like, you think okay, here's who I am. Now choose. And if you choose no, I'm learning to love who I am with all of the things that I've done and who I've become as a result of it. But yeah, it was definitely a big thing.
From one very high profile relationship to another one with Dave Hollis. Yeah. What did that fulfill for you? How did that relationship go? And then, of course, the heartbreaking ending and the tragic ending.
Yeah, sorry, I gotta drink this.
Yeah, no, take your time.
Sorry, you guys.
Take your time. But how did you guys even meet? Because it was actually a couple of years.
So, okay.
After, right?
So 2019, Chris and I started our divorce.
Yeah.
We lived together, which was great. So to kind of finish that, Chris and I actually, it was good for the kids because I didn't want what had happened in my first divorce. Yeah. Didn't want that again. And so Cash and Rubes, they were used to it. We sat them down and talked about it. No one in the world knew. No one outside of our home really, and our business partners knew until a year later. So they had a whole year of getting clear and solid that mom and dad are getting divorced. Yeah. And dad's here, mom's here. We even tried this like nesting situation where one of us stayed in the home with the kids, we got a condo, and we would kind of swap. So dad would go to the condo, mom would come home for a week. Then mom would go to the condo. So I feel like we did it really well with the kids that time. And Maddox and Morley, that was their second divorce. Yeah. They spent more time with Chris than they had their biological dad because of the custody. So it was traumatic for everyone. So move out, when we finally were like, okay, divorce is done, we're split, we'll let the world know, which we did in May 2020, in COVID. That was another reason we stayed. Yeah, we did. In the middle of the pandemic. We spent a handful of months together during the pandemic, and we actually had fun. We had reels that we posted where Chris and I were dancing, and I'm sure there was a lot of pain for Chris, you know, but it was, I feel like it was really great. Yeah. I met Dave, so it's funny, I was just watching a video the other day. A friend of mine sent me a video from July 2020, and he and I had gone on a business trip with a couple other people that I was working with, to Texas. And a week prior, a week or so prior, I had seen that Dave and Rachel Hollis were breaking up. I didn't even know who Dave was. Right. But I saw Rachel Hollis was getting divorced. I sent her a long message just saying, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, because I had just gone through my second one.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and then I sent Dave just a, hey, I'm so sorry for what you're going through. Very short. At the time, I was like very conscientious of, I don't want anyone to think I like them, because I had put myself in many situations with men where they thought I liked them, and then I couldn't say no, and that was the story of my life. Yes. Story of my life. If I'm with a man in a room, and they think if I don't, I still say, learning to have boundaries with men. Yeah. But yeah, I messaged him, and then he sent a sweet message back. I don't even know how long after, just saying, yeah, I appreciate it, out of the blue. Really hard for me. I know you've been through this at some point. It was a little back and forth. I'd love to podcast about divorce. I guess Rachel and Dave had a podcast called Rise Together or something. And he said, I'm getting the podcast. Rachel's doing her own. I'd love to have you on, just talk about divorce, because I don't know what the hell I'm doing, and I have no idea how to navigate this. I'm lost. It's an identity crisis. And I said, okay, great. Virtual or in person? He said, well, I'm in Texas either way. I said, I'm going to Texas in, I don't know, a couple weeks, whatever it was. So I decided to fly. I was in Dallas for business, and then I decided after that I just hop a flight to Austin, which is where he was. And yeah, a friend of mine had sent a video of me the other day in Dallas, and the version of me that I saw, I actually got a little emotional about it, because it was a version of me that was still trying to try too hard. Like still maybe on the tail end of this marriage where I had royally effed up, and I was starting to figure out who I was. I was starting to see that I had a little bit of a wild side, a fun side in me that had been like caged my whole life, and I, would party a little bit. Like it just was a side of me that was I had this choker on. I literally sent it to my friend. I'm like, I am embarrassed by this person. And then I started going, okay, at that time in my life, there was how was I actually got really emotional, because I was like, how did I show up? How did this feel for Chris? How did this feel for my kids? How did it feel for people in my life who were my friends? I was just in this world that, in those 5 years from the show until divorce, my career had kind of skyrocketed a little bit. And then more after the divorce, but it had grown. I don't want to say skyrocketed. It had grown. And I saw this girl who was like a teenager, right? And had maybe gotten a little bit of power and saw her sexuality for the first time and didn't know how to use it. And it's what everyone goes through. Yeah. Usually at 18. Right. And here I'm watching this version of me at 37 or 30, whatever it was, going through this. And it was very emotional the other day. It was like I actually saw how I felt like maybe I already knew I showed up, but to see it was really difficult. And then I was talking through it to a friend. I said, what's so cool is the next day I met the man who literally changed me, Dave. So I flew to Austin to go record a podcast with Dave. Not attracted to him at all. I just was online, not attracted to him, didn't even think. And I showed up, and I remember he was waiting outside for me when I pulled up to his house. Just the energy of him was so big and so awesome. And I could tell he was sad, so we just immediately connect. Like, you know, how are you doing? He said, effing shitty, is what he said. And I was like, oh, okay. Got it. I know where we're at. Yeah. So it ended, we went and sat down to podcast, and he just started crying. And so it became a 4-hour conversation of everything. And it was in that moment, that conversation, that I told him, hey, just so you know who I am, because he's like, I think your divorce and mine are the same. I'm like, I don't think it is. He's like, no, because Chris left you and Rachel left me. I said, yeah, but here's who I am. Here's what I did. Here's what made it more complicated, you know. But it was just a very authentic, real, vulnerable conversation. And anyone watching this is like, that's a trauma bond. For sure. It was a trauma bond. And it was exactly what it needed to be at that time in my life. So we created a friendship that lasted a couple months before we went on any kind of a date, but it was a beautiful friendship. We text every day. I felt so, because I wasn't attracted to him when I first met him, I felt so safe with him. I felt like he was the one man who wasn't going to rape me, because I actually was raped at 38 years old. 38, what 38-year-old? Right. It gets raped by someone that she knows because she can't say, and when she says no. So just, it was so healing for me to be with someone like that and create just a deep, deep friendship. He was the first person to ever see me for all of who I am and literally just celebrate me. And it was also difficult because he was in a place where part of maybe what made celebrating so easy for him is he was struggling with a lot on his own. Maybe his way of wanting love was to give he had so much love to give, and there was a lot of pain where it was coming from. So yeah, hands down, up until that point in my life, definitely Dave was the love of my life. I don't know if I'll ever find anything like that again. And also, I don't know, you just don't know. And it never could have lasted. It never could have lasted because there was trauma on both sides, stuff he was struggling with. Yeah. But also he was so amazing. And I hate that, I hate it. I hate the way that he went out.
How did you find out?
So I had actually, this has actually never been, I have, my closest friends know, but I had talked to him the night he passed, the whole day. He and I were broken up, still talked a lot, every single day. Yeah. And his last day, he was so introspective. He had actually just come back from Arizona. He was in LA on Wednesday. So he passed late Saturday night. But he was in LA on Wednesday. And I had gifts for his kids for Christmas, which is funny because it was February. I just hadn't got them to him. And I also had some suitcases of mine he was going to return for me because we had just been together a couple weeks prior. But it was like I had said, I think we're done. We're done because just things weren't feeling right for us to have a future together. And also we were so tightly connected. So he'd come over to grab those on Friday before he had left. And yeah, he was sad and very just his text. He actually, I have to show you this. It's really kind of crazy. You can actually see. He had some really great last conversations. Okay, so this is the day before. So he sent this as he left. It was just a sweet text thanking me for compassion, my kindness, and he was essentially saying that where I am right now, meaning a little bit lost, is where you were 8 months ago when you were finding yourself. And he said he knows a better version of him. Then he sent this. He did this every single flight. He'd sent a picture of him in that little filter. And then he said, last one for a while. Have a great weekend and good luck with Alyssa. She's going to be amazing. So then I checked in. And if you were to kind of go through,
oh, Heidi.
It was so sweet. So his last day, Saturday, his texts, saying about his therapy session and how he realizes in like us breaking up, it wasn't just losing me, it was losing the kids, and how much he loved my kids. And he sent Maddox a text and said how happy, how proud he was of him. Sent him it was on Maddox's birthday. It just, the whole thing, and him processing and saying, here's how life is showing up for, he was the most, I had a feeling, I say this, I think his soul knew.
Yeah.
I think his soul knew. Yeah, it was, then we ended up talking that night at 11 something, his time, 9 something my time, 11:43 actually, 9:43, because I could tell something was wrong, and so we're trying not to connect to make breakup easier, and this day just happened to be a day where it was emotions, and I knew he needed to be held emotionally. But yeah, we talked that night, and he was really having a hard time. And he was struggling with his breathing. And I didn't know, I asked, is your breathing okay? And he had been drinking a little bit. Mm-hmm. And I actually made him lay down. I said, can you lay down? It's midnight your time. Lay down. And so we did, and he was emotional and just saying he was struggling with where he's at. And I said, what's interesting, the text before he called said, last word of the night, that I'm releasing myself from this. All I feel like you need to hear is this: be kind to yourself. You're a great person with so much good in your life. It's hard right now, I know, but you'll get through it. You are so loved by so many. And then I didn't know where he was at mentally, so I had mentioned, please don't hurt yourself, kind of a thing. We talked. I put him to bed virtually, and then I woke up in the morning, and I actually said, I'm not going to reach out to you tomorrow, not because I don't love you, but because this breakup is hard, and I want you to, we had gone through something the weekend before because I hadn't reached out. So I prepped him, said, we're not going to talk tomorrow. And I woke up with a knowing that he was not okay. And yeah, I just checked in on him over and over. And then I sent someone out, and also my brain had gone to a couple weeks prior when we were at a retreat together, he and I. So we still were very close.
Yes.
I remember all of my laughs with him.
You have the longest breakups of anyone in history.
You have no idea.
Seriously.
Yeah. But he had to go to the hospital because his blood pressure was so high a couple weeks prior. So then I'm like, okay, could it have been his heart or his, what was it, his blood pressure? Did he have a stroke? So no one had any idea. When I had his old nanny on the phone, when I told her to go check on him, she did. She didn't even work for him at the time. I said, please go break into his house and make sure he's okay. And she had found him dead. Yeah. And in the same position with his phone.
Stop.
One hand was on his heart. His phone was in his hand, so it was like he hung up and just passed away. So yeah, when I remember I was driving back from a Colin Ray concert with my mom, it must have been end of March, so a month and a half later, and I was just getting text after text after text. And I was like, what? And someone's text said, ethanol, cocaine, and fentanyl. Wait, what? And I'm like, what are they talking about? Yeah, I'm sorry. I retract. A week prior, I had gotten a call from the sheriff, so I did know, because in his trust or will, I was responsible for his body and his remains. So, which was beautiful because I got to see his body. I got to have a conversation with it. And so the sheriff did call me when toxicology came back, and he told me that, and my heart just dropped. So I remember, and I was like, I'm not telling a soul.
Right.
And I actually had asked, I said, please do not say a word to anyone. I don't want his kids to, I didn't want anyone to know. I didn't want that to be his legacy, because, he already was being slammed on the internet by so
Heidi,
many
when
people.
you think back, this story was huge. It was huge.
I know. And so then it was like, I had not said a word. I think I had told my mom, and that was it. And then a week later, I started being hit with texts, and someone got his, what do you call it? Autopsy results, and leaked it. Yeah. And I did know, and I didn't tell his family. I didn't tell anyone. I didn't tell one person, because I did not want the mom of Dave, I didn't want her to, it's not like I like didn't want them to know who he was, but like that's such, like what a crappy thing to have your worst choice be your last choice that everyone now remembers you by. When I've been around a lot of people on this planet, and there's no one like Dave. No one with a heart like him. Does he have weaknesses, or did he? Yeah, and so did I. Like if I passed away in my ugliest moment, it's like, it's not fair. It's not a fair representation of the life that he lived, you know? So yeah, it was shocking, and I didn't know how to handle it, you know, and then obviously there's naturally going to be accusations of, I don't think anyone knew that. And I could be stupid, but I really don't think this was a regular thing for him. I genuinely, again, maybe I'm stupid, I genuinely think he was pretty dang clean. He was in Texas, I was in Arizona. But there's a lot of people that are like, oh, he must have been always doing that. I don't know that he was. I think part of it, I didn't even know what fentanyl did until I had to like research it after. I'm like, what does it do? Well, it actually affects your breathing. So now in hindsight, the trouble breathing on the phone, I realized was fentanyl, or something being laced with fentanyl is kind of what I put the pieces together. And I feel like maybe his naivety to drugs and what they could be laced with is what had him using something that ultimately killed him. Because I think anyone who did that often would be really understanding and in the loop on how dangerous it is and who to get it from. Like, I'm just assuming. I'm like, I think he would have been safer.
So you're left with this humongous, it's a huge tragedy. You saw it everywhere. It was all over social media. It was everywhere. And then his ex-wife is also huge in the space that you guys are both in. How did you navigate that?
She was actually really great. Like, she really, same. I think anyone who has a platform, especially a platform like hers, she's really funny. She's really smart. She's a really great mom. They're naturally going to get talked about and picked apart, and people are going to hate them, and there's hate sites everywhere about all three of us, right? Me, Dave, and Rachel. And she's actually really awesome. And I do think her experience with Dave was very different than my experience with Dave. I know that I've never read her books. From what I understand, the books kind of share her honest, authentic experience in marriage and dating him, and I don't think she's wrong. I'm sure that version of Dave existed, just like ugly versions of me existed, just like ugly versions of all of us existed or exist, right? Like our shadow selves. But who I got after life tore him down, right? So their marriage ended. I think, most people know it was her choice, which was best for both of them. Like, it was something she needed, and it was something he needed and didn't know that he needed. And that, I think, had created a version of him that was willing to look at himself and show up a different way than maybe he did in his marriage. He definitely wore his heart on his sleeve with me. So I got a great version of him. And yeah, Rachel was great. She was really great. Easy to work with. I really feel like the kids, it's like everything is truly a blessing in disguise. I'm sure back and forth with the kids was hard anyway, but I feel like she and her new husband are so phenomenal. Like, he's a really great person, the little that I know of him and the few times that I met him. So yeah, I think everything's working out exactly the way that it should have. And also, I hate that it happened, the way that it did. But also, Dave's at peace. Yeah.
When you talk to your kids about just life in general, like, Heidi, you've had a rough go. Like you've got, if someone wants advice on divorce, they can go to you.
Or
if someone wants advice on dealing with life after death, they go to you. If someone wants advice on having to share families, or they go to you. You are basically like an oracle when it comes to life because you've been through the gamut. So how do you talk to your kids about what can come at them, how to prepare for things, how to deal with things? What are those conversations like? Because you've been through it all.
I am very open and honest with my kids about everything. I mean, I think there are some things that kids shouldn't, I have to be so careful because when, Ruby's 11 and Cash is 13, what things can I actually share with them that tell them the truth of who I am and what life has looked like? Because that's so important to me. And what things might be too heavy for someone their age to hold, right? But I will say, as far as how I deal with all of that and how I share things with, the one thing that was really difficult for me as a teen was finding out that, and this is not directed at my parents at all, because I think I think people are just like this. Yeah. Finding out that who and how my parents really were was not in line with what we were told they were, right? It's just it's like even R-rated movies. Was raised Mormon. It was like when my parents, knowing that R-rated movies were not okay, and then finding out that they watch R-rated movies, or told that drinking's not okay, but then finding out that they drink. And so these inconsistencies, the incongruencies in who my parents were versus who, and they did it to prove a lesson, to be like, hey, don't drink, you keep yourself pure so we don't do this kind of a thing. And that happens all over, especially in religious cultures. It's like what we're doing behind closed doors is completely different than what we're doing or telling you guys that we're doing. And so I have taken a mildly different, I don't want to say drastic because it's mild and it's delicate, a delicately different approach with my kids where I want them to know where I am. Like there are certain things Ruby doesn't know. My older kids and Cash know just about everything. They do. And I like it that way. But it's like I always lay the foundation, even when my kids make mistakes. It's like, hey, this is or someone else does, someone else who hurts them. Hey, this is what humans do. Like we have things we're not proud. We do things we're not proud of. We show up not our best. Now you get to choose how to protect your peace, kind of a thing. But you also, I think just always laying the groundwork for we're human. We're all going to mess up. Or we're all going to have things that we step into and we feel like our life is never going to be the same, or our life is ruined, or whatever it is. And good news, it never is. It's never over. It is never ruined. And I think I've thought, what is it about me that I feel like I can offer to humanity or people around me? You don't have to just have hard things happen to you, because I've had that. You also can make some pretty horrible, hellish, dumb mistakes that are innate, 100% rooted in your trauma and your shit. You can make those, and then you can recover from them. And you can actually be a better person because of what you learned from that thing. Like you're never too far gone, never. And I feel like I needed someone to say that to me. I needed to know that in order to believe that was true and to live into it. But I had this idea of writing this book. I'm not going to tell you the title because someday I think I'm going to write it.
Yes, but let's go.
I know, because it's like there's story after story after story of things that I stupidly, not thinking, mistakes I made or ways that I was when I was just trying to get my needs met, and things that happened to me. There's so many things that brought me shame for so many years. And that shame, when it's not named and it's not processed and it's not talked about, causes you to make the same mistakes again. Like you're stuck in that pattern over and over and over. So if there was a book, if there were all of my stories, good, bad, and ugly, that then connected every experience to what I actually learned or what I gained or how I grew from it, where peace came from as a result of that, to let people know that you're always enough. You're always okay. You're never too far gone. That's what I want people to know. And I think that's what I give to people in a one-on-one basis. I think I let them know that who they are and all of the things that come with you are actually beautiful. You just don't know it yet.
You pour out so much. Like you really do. You pour out so much to people, whether it's online or even like in this interview. You are so free with who you are. You pour so much. So how do you fill back up?
Interestingly, I know this is like not what, but like me sharing and pouring oddly does so much for me. It does. Every single time I share and I pour, it's like I am one step freer. Like this interview, I've never talked about some of this stuff publicly, ever. I didn't even plan on it at all. I had no idea what we were going to talk about. And also there was like a voice that's like, you know what? No, it just, be you. Be all of who you are. The freedom that comes with being free, being unmasked is so beautiful. But how do I pour into me? Let's see. You know, self-care is really important to me. It's very difficult. It's difficult. But like I feel like I go to churches. I have a couple different churches that I go to. My kids go to a Mormon church and I go with them. One of my kids is on a mission, and I also have a Christian church that I absolutely love, CCV, that I go to. And also, there's not one place where I feel God like when I'm alone or doing breath work or in a cold plunge. When I never understood that in order to connect with God, I first had to connect with me. So there have been times where I'm sitting in a church and my nervous system is completely dysregulated. And I sit there going, can anyone in this church actually hear God? Or are they all dysregulated? What if before church, we all did breath work and we all connected to who we are, right? So I would leave and immediately go to the place where I would do breath work and cold plunge. And then it was like, oh, here you are. Like here I am. And here you are, God. And now I can actually talk to you. And now what is being said is not bouncing off. It's being soaked in, you know, where before it's like when you're walled and guarded and there's so much going on in your life and you can feel it and you're unaware of what that feeling is, like that pit in your stomach, that's a dysregulated nervous system. And most people don't know. But then suddenly, like you give me words from a preacher or a pastor or a bishop or whoever, you give me words from the guy at the supermarket. And I'm suddenly like, oh, like I can hear all of it. I can actually connect with God and my higher power, which is a really important thing for me. And then being with my kids, I mean, I have the best kids. And they all have their things. Sometimes I'm like, I want you all out of my house. I really do. But like just their hearts and their ability to love, even with all of the crap that comes with their mom. They've been through a lot. They've seen all of the things that I've been through, and I have to remember this, and I do remember. Yeah. They've been through all of it too, and then some. Like they've been through 2 divorces. They've been through Dave's death. They've been through a different side of, I've had relationships outside of those that have been ugly and not pretty and difficult. They've experienced their mom in abusive type settings where it changes and shifts how I show up. They've been through a lot. And how much they still love and hear me and just show up is beautiful. And that's not their job. Their job is not to show up. I genuinely have incredible souls as kids. They're so great.
You've been through, it's hard to even like wrap up, but you've been through so much. You've done so many things. You've made so many decisions. You've shared so much. How do you want the rest of your life to go? What else is there? What else do you really want to do?
It's so interesting that we're having this conversation now because I just barely, I've been doing healing, some pretty unconventional healing modalities over the last couple of years to heal. One of them being ketamine-assisted therapy. I don't know if you've heard of that.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, and I've never talked about it because it's something I'm like, I don't want people to judge. I don't want And I haven't known the last 2 years since Dave passed, I shut down most of my businesses, only doing things that were like easy. So I didn't have to have a nanny, didn't have to have help. I could be 100% with my kids. And now that my second child is leaving to college, I've been like, okay, I think I'm ready. I'm ready, but I don't know what next looks like. I don't think it's going to have movement because people know me as a fitness trainer. It's going to have food. Sorry, not because people know me as that. It's going to have movement because moving your body is important. It'll have nutrition because fueling and feeding your body to create longevity is important. But also, it's going to have a major healing element. So in June, I'm actually doing my first, with a medical team that helped me, we're doing our first ketamine-assisted retreat. And so I'm not saying it's all going to be that, but these different modalities that are scientifically proven and medically backed. There is study after study on the power of low doses of ketamine, for example, completely rewiring your brain, creating neuroplasticity. So you're not just, there's so many people on antidepressants and they don't even know what's happening in their brain or their body. It's a Band-Aid for a symptom of there's something in your nervous system, there's some trauma, there's something to dive into, and we're like coding your brain so you can't feel it, so you just ignore it. Where when you can start to actually do the work and open up and feel safe being who you are, and then at the same time, let's rewire your brain. The medical professionals actually create neuroplasticity, and it's an anti-inflammatory for the body, like so much in these different modalities of healing. I do know it's whatever forward is, it's helping people heal.
Which is so interesting because for so long, you started on the outside.
Yeah.
You know, we were looking at fitness and food and everything. And now that you're older and you've been through all this stuff, it seems like the importance of what's inside is just trumps everything.
Yeah. Well, like, there's a quote or a meme around social. I don't remember the exact words, but it's like, it doesn't matter how good the food is that you put in your body. It doesn't matter how you run, how you work out. Like, if you're not healthy here and here, you're sick. And for so long, I thought health had to look like muscles and macros, right? And that's not health. That's like physical, that's very scientific. Health and wellness is connecting with who you are, finding out who you are, and unpacking and just authentically being you and treating your body. You are the most important person in the world. You are the most important person in your world. I am the most important person in my world. If we cannot treat ourselves as we would treat the most important person in the world, we are setting ourselves up for a life of misery. And I don't think that's what anyone wants. I think we all want peace. We all want health. We all want happiness. But we have to do it different than we thought we did before.
You have every reason to not really want to get out of bed. Like, again, horrible, like losing your dad, losing, someone that you love dearly, divorces, everything. So what gets you out? What do you say to yourself?
I think I just really got lucky. Like, I honestly think every soul is so different. And maybe it's trauma from when I was a kid. I don't know. But also, I just think I always love life. Always. Like, there's only a 8-month period of time before Dave died where I went through anxiety and depression with panic attacks. But I love life. Like, it is, even the hard stuff. I don't know why. I like in the moment and I want to cry, and I do cry and all these things. Like, it is this beautiful mixture of heaven and hell that like we get to experience and feel. So what gets me out of bed? Probably like if I have to go technical. Number one, I just love it, but also I'm really good with my habits. Yeah. Like, I know I'm never going to be motivated to do absolutely anything. So it's like if I create a system that has me create habits, I'm going to get up. I'm going to make my bed. If I'm not motivated by then, I'm going to find it throughout the day. But also, just now, if we're going to go emotional, my kids, myself and my kids, A little bit of everything. Life is so good. And also it's really tragic and it's really hard, you know? But then there's this thing too, that's like, we don't know if this is our life. No one really knows, right? We all believe what we believe and I can choose, but no one really knows. No one. If this is the only life I have, and it might be, it might not be, but if it is, why would I waste it doing anything other than living it to its fullest? You know?
I love that. I don't think you have any, like, girl. I loved every ounce of that. I'm so glad we did this.
You got more out of me than anyone ever has.
You give so much to people, and I feel like it's so nice to like pull back the curtain a little bit and to like really sit down and talk.
Yeah.
Heidi, even one of the things you've gone through, I don't know if I can get up and get out. Even one. And you've done it all. And here you are smiling. It's so incredible.
Thank you.
Seriously.
Thank
and I know
you.
you hear that a lot probably. And I don't even know if you realize it. But like your life is not normal. No one should go through that much crap. For real. But it just seems like you, I mean, I'm sure you had horrible times, but you can handle it. Like you got it. And you have 4 little babies looking at you who are like, Mom's got it.
Oh, and that they do know that I have it. And it's something like I feel like I am the mom and the dad. I feel like I'm everything for those. And they have dads, right? But in a home, you become everything. So it is like, how do I stay strong? And how do I also be soft so they can see that you don't always have to be strong. Like it's a really delicate thing. How do I let them know that they are safe and also let them know that I'm just figuring it out too? So it's like it's a delicate balance.
Oh, girl, you're doing it well.
Thank you.
Oh,